So, brief history, another brief history, and today we're going to look at Pantera. Absolutely adore this band. This is my second favourite band of all time. They're my favourite metal band across any genre or subgenre of metal. This is my top, number one. Across all of music, they're my second pick. Absolutely adore this band. Astonishingly good. And I'm very excited about doing this. So, let's get going. So, Pantera, formed in 1981 by the brothers Daryl and Vinnie Paul Abbott. Formed out in Texas. Their dad was a studio engineer, did a lot of country. So they were very in tune with the music industry and the music business from a very, very early age. They dropped out of school to pursue the rock and roll dream. Just totally chinned it off. They just played drums and guitar with each other all the time. Skype school and everything. Just chinned it off. And they were really good by all accounts. Dimebag actually, I believe, started off as a drummer. Vinnie Paul was a guitar player, and then they switched instruments at some point in time. A lot like I believe the Van Halen brothers did that as well. I believe Eddie originally, he was a drummer. He was a pianist as well. Well, we'll do a Van Halen one another time. Yeah, so the switched instruments. They were very, very locked in to each other from an early age. That's probably one of the reasons why, is because they played each other's instruments. They started off originally as as a glam metal band. The biggest influence it had was Kiss. That was their favourite band. It's the band that got them into rock music, into metal music, was Kiss. They were in the Kiss army. A lot of bands that came out in the 80s and the 90s, you'll find the big influence on all of them was Kiss. And Pantera were no different. They absolutely loved Kiss. They got dressed up in the costumes, everything, with the gigs, the lot. And consequently, they based the style of music around that. In the early incarnation of Pantera, which went through various different lineup changes. At one point, they were a 5-piece with what's his name? Terry Glaze, who was the singer for a number of years, but he was actually originally the rhythm guitar player, and Dimebag was really just lead. And then they fired the original singer, and Terry Glaze then went and tried to do rhythm guitar and vocals, but then just chinned off guitar and just did the vocals. And he was a very, very good vocalist for that style of music. As well, they got really, really big around the South. So around Texas and New Orleans and all that. There was a circuit down there, glam metal circuit. And they supported a lot of big bands as well. They were very, very highly regarded. When some of the bigger bands came to the South, they requested Pantera as the support for that run of gigs, which is not bad going. They did 3 albums in that lineup. Those albums were Metal Magic, Projects in the Jungle, and I Am the Night. They're all very, very hard to get hold of. Very hard. They were all in spandex, the lot. And yeah, in interviews later on, Rex Brown was very much against the whole spandex thing, but he wore it just because, well, that's what the band were doing. And to be fair, if you were in a band with Dimebag, you definitely would just do whatever the hell you were told, really. At the time, he was not known as Dimebag either. He went by the name of Diamond Darrell for quite a while. After the third album, which was I Am the Night, the band decided to really start making steps musically to go heavier and go in a heavier direction. The albums that they'd done had gradually, slowly but surely, got heavier and heavier and heavier. They were in the South, especially in New Orleans. There's a very, very big hardcore and metal scene at the time, and the band obviously influenced that. They were around there a lot. It started to creep into the music slowly but surely, and it's something that it's a direction that they wanted to move into. And Terry unfortunately did not fit the bill. Although he's a really good vocalist, he was very one-dimensional to glam and pop metal and stuff. And they never had any disputes with him. It wasn't a knock on him or anything. It's just they wanted to go one way and he wanted to continue doing another thing. So it's kind of a mutual thing that they split. So 1986 rolls around. They start the search for a new vocalist. Terry gone. Terry goes in 1986, and they look for a new vocalist. They try out a number of different vocalists. That did quite an eclectic style of vocal as well, which was kind of, you'd imagine they did that to kind of figure out where they wanted to go. And eventually they decided on going and having a vocalist who could do heavier stuff, but could do Rob Halford falsetto kind of stuff as well. And there was a young kid out in New Orleans by the name of Phil Alcimo that they'd heard of. I believe they played a gig around the same time as one of his bands, and they eventually got in contact, and they had a jam, and everything went, and the metal happened. So they locked in, everything was hunky-dory, and they had their vocalist ready to go. The music that they were working on at the time, during the time that they were looking for a vocalist, bearing in mind it took like a year to a year and a half to find Phil Alcimo, from the time Terry left to the time Phil Alcimo came in. There was like 10 vocalists that had tried to get to fit the bill. It just didn't happen. But they'd been writing. The three of them had been writing continually and developing that sound that they wanted, which would then eventually be known as groove metal. The band would go on to be known as the Godfathers of groove metal, which is something we'll get into in a bit. But they developed that style during this period of time. They really started to hone that. And on the next release, which was power metal, called Power Metal, that was kind of the last spandexy type album that they did. It was musically, it was still a departure from what they'd done prior, and you could call it a bridge album, because they still had elements of the past that they were trying to, knock out and, but they had these new elements that they were bringing in, which were really cool, and they were kind of fighting against each other, like, and eventually the metal won. It's on that album as well. Separate side note, point to note, the last track on that album as well has Dimebag doing the vocals. There you go, check that out. They're very, very hard to get hold of as well. These albums, those 4 albums, the 4 Spandex Pantera albums, are very, very hard to get hold of. They're like collector's items, and really, really rare and expensive if you can find them. Especially the first 3, not so much with Phil and Seymour's one. You can still get that one. But after the release of that, they literally they wrote it and they released it, and then they tuned it off, basically. They just were like, nah, see you later, go on by. They had a band meeting and they just decided just to wear cash clothes and just go full on with what they were doing. You know, they're taking notice of the scene down in New Orleans, and they knew that if they were going to do this heavier style of music that they were writing and that they were getting on with, they couldn't do it in spandex, because you'd just get slaughtered. They would have been destroyed. So, sacked it off, went with a normal sort of street clothes. In 1989, separate point to note, Megadeth actually offered Dimebag the Slaughter's lead guitarist for Megadeth, and there was a brief point where he considered it, but he gave Dave Mustaine an ultimatum. He said, I'll do it, but you've got to have my brother as the drummer. If you don't, I'm not doing it. So, and Mustaine was like, yeah, didn't take him up on it. But can you imagine what Megadeth would have sounded like with Dimebag and Vinnie Paul? That would have been quite interesting, you know. It would have been like Cowboys from Hell meets Rust in Peace. That would have been mental. Yeah, so we tuned them off, and then they get signed in 1989. There was a lot of hoo-ha about them. They actually got turned down 28 times by labels, but there was a record label executive that got wind of them and managed to catch them at a show. There's a story going around that there was a big storm and he got caught in a storm and he walked into a random bar and saw them play a gig. But from what I can gather, that's not how it quite went down. He actually did fly out to see him, and they were playing a party, and they just they went out and they smashed it. They were playing like the new stuff, it was the Cowboys from Hell stuff that they were playing. That's what they were doing, and that's essentially what they are. They showed this guy at this gig, and they tore the place to pieces. It was like a birthday party or something, and there was like drinks everywhere and cake, and it was just people just going ballistic and mental. And the guy walked out after 6 songs, and like Rex saw him walk out and went and told the band. They were all really pissed off. But he'd actually gone to make a telephone call and actually told his label that they were signing him immediately. So yeah, they got a deal. 1989, signed, boom. 1990, Cowboys from Hell comes out. What a banging album that is. The opening track to that is absolutely amazing. It's phenomenal. What a tune. What a tune. And it's a massive statement for the band themselves and what they're about and who they are. The video for that tune as well, it's shot in the Dallas Club, I think it's called, which is, they used to play there regularly all the time. So they shot the Cowboys from Hell music video there. It's basically just them playing a live gig and absolutely smashing it. They toured relentlessly with this album. They went out. It was done by Terry Day as well, which was really cool. And I think they recorded it in the dance studio as well, which was awesome. So they kept it all in Texas. It was a big thing for them. They never travelled out of Texas to record. They kept everything in house. That's where they were comfortable. That's where they came from. That's what they did. Works for them. And they toured relentlessly. They went out with Sepultura, Morbid Angel, Suicidal Tendencies, and they did the Monsters Rock in Moscow show. They got a Nat bill as well, and absolutely tore the place down. The footage of that gig is just absolutely something else. They were incredible, absolutely astounding on that gig, and they got a real reputation right off the bat for their high intensity partying after the shows as well. The roadies have openly stated that they're the only band where if you don't drink and get wasted, you get fired. That's what it is. There was all kinds of shenanigans going on. Got a real rep from it, but they toured relentlessly, just destroyed RVs. Got a good rep, but their live shows were very, very highly regarded. They were a very highly regarded live band, and they really cut their teeth with that album cycle, with the Cowboys tour. And then in 1992, we come to Vulgar Display of Power, which is one of the best metal albums you'll ever hear. Period. This album is why the band is regarded as the godfathers of groove metal. Now, a lot of people will dispute that, and they'll say that the groove metal originated in New Orleans. There was a couple of bands out there that were doing that long before Pantera. Pantera, and there's the old story going that during Pantera's glam days, while they're playing in New Orleans, checked out some of the gigs there. Saw some of the bands, were like, yeah, that's what we want to do. We'll nick that and off we go. But even if they did do that, they did it a lot better than what they were doing it in New Orleans, to be fair. Because if those bands were any good, or as good as what people have made out because they've got snotty and shitty about the whole thing, then they would have written a Vulgar Display of Power. It didn't really happen. You know what I mean? Phil Alessimo completely changed his vocal style in this album as well. So gone with the Rob Halford big falsetto notes like on Cemetery Gates and stuff like that. And goes for more of a low level, gravelly sort of growl, more screams, still very good vocal delivery. But again, there's always the accusations that he nicked that from other vocalists from New Orleans. But the dude's from New Orleans. He played in that scene. He played on that circuit. He was one of the vocalists from that circuit. But yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You know what I mean? It was bound to come in. It was the direction that we're going in. You could hear it on Cowboys. You could hear them going into Vulgar Display of Power. You knew that an album like Vulgar Display of Power was coming. And the Godfathers of Groove Metal? Absolutely. Absolutely. People can dispute it all they like, but they were the first band to take it to where it needs to go, to be honest. They're the biggest band to do it. They completely changed the face of metal at that point in time with this album. As soon as that riff comes in with Walk, whole different ball game. New level, what a tune. Fucking hostile. Beautiful. Beautiful. Alright, this is just a slamming album. You know, Rise, what a tune. It's not even a single, it's a banging riff. You know what I'm saying? Simple riffs, essentially, with great melodies, massive hooks. That's the album. It's written all over, but it's massively heavy. Really, really good, really, really massive tones. It was done by Terry Date again. He just took it up a level, he just took them up a level, made the sound thicker. Brilliant, it's amazing album. And it's really the album that changed their career. That again just toured relentlessly with this. You know, this band were touring with everyone. They went out. They toured with Skid Row. They went out with Megadeth as well, ironically, which is cool. I think they went all over Europe with Megadeth. The Skid Row tour was. I would have liked to have gone next. I like Skid Row. I've done a previous video, brief history on Skid Row. Want to check that out? It's pretty cool. That would have been a pretty cool tour. They just toured relentlessly. There's just everywhere. Every gig they could do, they did it. They just absolutely blew it out of the park. It was at this point as well that Dimebag dropped the Diamond moniker and became Dimebag. It was a very big transitional sort of album where they fully embraced the groove of metal. 1994. What happens in 1994? Far Beyond Driven is what happens in 1994. By a Minutes Alone is what happens in 1994. Holy shit! What a tune! You know what I mean? I'm Broken. Quality tune. The album debuted, I believe, at number 1 as well. Really cool, kick-ass album. Banging, absolutely amazing. Again, went out all over the place. The band were heavily supported at the time by MTV as well, and they had a lot of musicians, a lot of heavier musicians supporting them as well. They'd struck up great friendships with the likes of Zakk Wylde, who was Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist at the time. So they had a lot of support behind them, not just from like record labels and management, but from musicians, especially in the genre. When you've got Ozzy Osbourne backing you up, I mean, you're not going to get any better than that, really, are you? If you've got Ozzy Osbourne going to bat for you, it's pretty good. And a lot of that was to do with his friendship with Zakk Wylde. They were best mates. They used to have guitar offs and stuff like that. It's really cool. That point as well, they had a few controversies. So there was a few fights in 1994. So over in the UK or America, can't remember which one, but Dimebag and Vinnie Paul got into a fight with some journalists from Kerrang. The magazine had drawn some cartoons of the band and of Vinnie Paul, and they were not very well received by the band and by the brothers. So they went and they had a fight with him, basically. Had quite a scuffle, and Phil Anselmo decided to pick a fight with a security guard at a gig. Got chucked in jail, arrested, chucked in jail. The security guards wouldn't let their crowd on stage to come be with the band during the song and stuff, so he booted off about it, and got in a fight with one of them. I got charged with assault and all that sort of good stuff. Got released with like a $5,000 bail or some shit like that. Yeah, but as you do, big fights and that sort of stuff. They were at the height of their popularity at that point, so there was bound to be some shit going down. So they toured Far Beyond Driven, as they normally did, like relentlessly through 94, 95, and it was at this point in time Phil Anselmo started using heroin as a painkiller for his back. He needed a back operation, and due to the amount of time that he'd have to take off to recover for the back operation, or from the back operation, he decided not to have the operation and instead to use heroin as a painkiller. It's probably not the best idea in the world. In fact, it's not probably, it is absolutely the worst idea in the world that you could do, as well, especially considering that you combine that with like copious amounts of booze. You know, at that point the band had been absolutely, they'd got such a reputation for boozing it up. It was unreal. Like they just hammered it, absolutely hammered it. Like they were on it all the time. Phil Anselmo had quite a few drunken nights at gigs where his performances weren't quite up to scratch. And he hid his drug use from his bandmates as well. So they didn't actually know that he was on that he was taking heroin. They just thought he was a, alcoholic. But there was a lot more to it than just alcohol. The heroin really started to take a grip of him, as it does. It's a highly addictive drug, obviously. And eventually, So in 1996, the band just moors on through 94, 95, touring relentlessly, and it just moors straight into the Great Southern Trendkill, which is a really good album, don't get me wrong. But I mean, following Vulgar Display of Power is very, very difficult to do, and it's not as good. It's not made no bones about it, but it's not exactly a shit album either. It's really good. The title track for it, which is the opening track, is absolutely banging. It's one of my favourite Pantera tracks. It's probably their heaviest song. I'd say hands down the heaviest song. It's an amazing start to a song and an album. It really is brutally heavy. But it was the first song that they didn't, where the band sort of starts to fracture, and like it all started to come unglued at that point. They were living the dream, boozing it up, absolutely smashing it. And then Phil Anselmo overdoses after a homecoming gig in Dallas. Declared dead for 5 minutes and then comes back and is rushed into hospital. And then that is the point whereby they find out that he's been on heroin for 2 years ish. Not very good, really, is it? It's like, hey, I'm alive. I've been taking heroin for a couple of years. It's alright. He then tries to come off it and relapses a couple of times, and it's not exactly a good moment in the band's history. But it's a great album. Check it out. 97, 98 rolls along. They released the live album, 101% Proof, or live 101% Proof, and they do Ozfest. And again, Phil Anselmo, he's in a bit of a mess here, and you can see the band falling apart, and it's not nice. And 99 rolls around. They're doing Reinventing the Steel, which is regarded as their poorest album. It's still not bad, but you could tell that they all weren't singing off the same song sheet. Phil Anselmo didn't record anything with the band at this point either. He recorded all of his stuff in New Orleans, and that was definitely where the band was stopping. Beginning of the end, essentially. It started to fracture in 96, and then started completely splitting off in 99, really. They went out on tour again during 2001 doing the Ozfest, and that was kind of it, really. 2003 rolls around, they're still playing, they're still touring, and they split. The last gig that they played, I think, was in Tokyo, I'm led to believe. Yeah, pretty bad, man. They split. They called time on the band after 2000. After 2001, yeah, called time on it. Originally, the plan was to take a year off. Phil Alessimo was in a multitude of different other projects. Most notably, he was in Down. He did Superjoint Ritual as well. I think he was doing like some death metal project as well. So they were just taking. Essentially, they were just going to take a year off and then come back to it. And then Phil Alessimo kind of didn't come back. So the rest of the band just knocked it on the head. In 2003, they announced that finished with Pantera. The brothers went on to release Rebel Meets Rebel. They did that in what was supposed to be their break from Pantera. Did like an album with David Allen and Co. I think it was Rebel Meets Rebel. It's pretty cool. It's like country metal, I guess. I think Vinnie Paul regards some of the solos on that as Dimebag's best guitar work. As I said, Phil Alessimo went out and did Down, most notably. Did Superjoint Ritual. Those are the main two ones that he did. Rex went and joined Down as well. Dimebag and Vinnie Paul went off and did Damage Plan, which was they only managed to release one album before Dimebag's unfortunate and untimely death, which it's not cool, man. Not cool. Properly shit. And they never got to reconcile. Nothing like that. Which is really shit. But is what, isn't it? And yeah, so there you go. Pantera. They were supposed to be heavy metal's Rolling Stones. That was the general gist. That was the general idea. Didn't really pan out like that. But they're an amazing band. They definitely have secured their place in music history. Spawned a whole new genre of metal. And wrote one of the greatest metal albums of all time. You know, Volume Display Power. That's top 5. It's in their top 5. What's your top 5? I don't know. Maybe we'll do a top 5 metal albums. Who knows? But that has to be in the top 5 metal albums ever. It's brilliant. There you go. Pantera. A brief history of Pantera. What do you think? Do you like Pantera? Do you like them as much as me? Yeah. So that was that. And we'll see you in the next brief history of... Who knows? I don't know yet because I haven't done it. I haven't even written it. You know what I mean? Yeah. See you in the next one. Take it easy. Goodbye.